Peace and grand rising to the heirs. Today is December the 10th, 2020 on the Greco-Roman calendar, 1440 on the sun calendar, and 1441 on the moon calendar. And we want to first take a moment and just pull in the peace into our meeting, so that, you know, we stay in our proper peaceful place in preparation for all that the ancestors have for us. We don't want to miss it by being distracted or anything like that. We want to stay focused and stay unified in our peaceful energy, so that we can hear from the ancestors and also hear one another clearly. So let's see. December 13th, 14th, and 15th, we are going to have our national fast that day, those 3 days actually. And we picked those 3 days because that is the time of the new moon, and also in preparation for the winter solstice, which is the 21st of December. And so we want to be prepared for that. We know that the energies are indeed rising. The frequencies of the earth are rising, and we're actually moving to zero entropy, and not zero entropy, but ought entropy, where peace is concerned. In other words, peace is encompassing everything. And those energies that are not peaceful will self-destruct. We don't even have to do anything with those. We just have to stay focused on nation building. So we're fortunate that our attention does not have to be moved back and forth. So this is a great time for us. It's an awesome time for us. When we first started this work, some were saying, you know, that we were not recognized, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't really need to be recognized by anyone except for ourselves. We needed to know ourselves first. And once we validated who we are, then others would do the same. They would follow, and we knew that coming into this, that we didn't need anyone to say, you know, okay, you're whoever you say you are, and you're blessed by us, so that makes you valid. We didn't need that. We needed to know that we were valid for ourselves and within ourselves first. And once we knew that, we already knew that everything else was going to follow suit, because all is subject to the air. So an example of them saying what we say and them following. And when I say them, I want to be sure that we are clear about the foreign beings that are on the lane. The ones that we created, the Albions that we created, they're not in all capital letters. Even those Albions that we created and made, they were hypothecated by corporations, corpses. So they were hypothecated in much the same way that we were. And in removing the corporate covering, that has left the real creation that we created there. So the corpses who hypothecated everyone use only capital letters. They don't use any lowercase letters. They have the ultimate loss of status. So when you say, let's just use Donald Trump as an example. When his name is put in all capital letters, then that's not the living subject that we created. Okay, that's not the living subject that we created. And I'll put that on the screen in the way that it really is. This one in all capital letters and black ink hypothecated this one. And so this one does not exist. It is a corpse. And hopefully you all can see that on the screen so that we have a clear understanding as we proceed in this discussion that we're having about all that has transpired and expired and conspired and inspired. This same hypothecation right here, and actually this right here is this. It's actually in blue. So can you see that on the screen? Donald Trump, in all capital letters and black ink, is a corporation that hypothecated Donald Trump, who has one capital D and the rest lowercase letters, and blue ink, who is a subject on our land. Okay. So some of us have been hearing by way of that venue that they call alternative media that there were two Donald Trumps and there's a clone and someone's cloning and blah, 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 blah. That's not the real Donald Trump. The real one wears a red tie and the fake one wears a black tie or a blue tie or an orange tie or whatever. That is what happened right there. There's one in all capital letters there was one. Let me speak past tense because we leaned that one out of business. That one was leaned out of here. And the one that we're going to discuss briefly today is the one in blue with one capital D and the rest small letters, and one capital T and the rest lowercase letters. Okay? So the one in black, that one only lives if one of us continues to give it life by saying it's doing this and it's doing that. We're saying it's dead permanently, period, non pro tunc. Never was alive and cannot act on behalf of anyone or anything. So that's on the public record. The corpse is a corpse, and we hereby bury it non pro tunc. It cannot speak. We do not recognize it. So now we have the other one. Just like with us, when we were denationalized or thought we were denationalized, we thought that because we've always been sovereign. We've never not been sovereign. But at one point, if you look on the screen, I'll just use my own I'll use this as an example. And by court, in all capital letters, and black ink, and corporate English, is dead. That's a dead entity. That is not me. Just like any name in all capital letters is not you all. And it's not even the foreigners. There's some fake entities that came and said, okay, we're going to create some stuff and steal some, and attempt to steal this vast estate. But in order for us to do that, we have to try and look like them as much as possible. So we'll use hieroglyphs instead of letters. And we'll tell them that the hieroglyphs are letters, and they won't know the difference because that's how we taught them in our schools when they didn't have their own erudite temples. And so that's one. And then this one, just a moment. Is written and reflected that way. The color of the ink makes the difference. Because even on the fake birth certificates, the ink is not blue like it should have been. It's black. That's still a dead entity. And then there is us, the real us. And it's that. And this is the case for all of us. Yes. So now, the Donald Trump that we're going to talk about briefly today is this one. The subject in blue. Who knows he's a subject in blue and not in all capital letters? That's how you know who's talking. If it's a dead corpse, we don't talk to dead corpses and they can't talk to us. So let's look at the tweet that came out today, and normally we don't focus on the subject, but today I think it's important that we do because it's time anyway now that they know who they are and now that they're back in their rightful place. Let's look at the tweets that came out today. On Twitter, these are the wrong colors. They're in blue on Twitter. Where it says @RealDonaldTrump, that's blue on Twitter. So it came from the blue one. And what it says is, Morocco recognized the United States in 1777. It is thus fitting we recognize their sovereignty over the Western Sahara. And a second Twitter that came out today, by the subject, Donald Trump, says, "Today I signed a proclamation recognizing Moroccan sovereignty over the Western Sahara," and this is key, "Morocco's serious, credible, and realistic autonomy proposal is the only basis for a just and lasting solution for enduring peace and prosperity." Notice the capitalization. And we do know that the fake Morocco, the corporate Morocco, was nowhere around in 1777. It only incorporated in 1956, and that's not really even, if we didn't give it permission to incorporate, it couldn't incorporate. So the subject, Donald Trump, who knows he is not sovereign and who knows that they are not a nation, right? Kingdom would be in all lowercase letters because even in 1956, we were still Morocco in red in all lowercase letters. And so this second one that says Morocco, Morocco's serious, credible, and realistic autonomy proposal is the only, and he put only in all capital letters because that means that that's not the only way to peace and prosperity. And he put it as a proposal. And then he put the word only because that's not what this is. They know that this is actually, we had to state and declare who we really are for ourselves. And so people have been saying, you know, you all aren't recognized by anyone, blah, 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 blah. And that's why, you know, there was a lot of popping in and out of here while we were getting, you know, signed on and set up. Is because they know what we're going to talk about today. They saw it too. And they know that it's you know, they have nothing else to, you know, to do here. They're dead too. Those who, you know, seek to operate in a corporate status on our land. And so, yes, he has been given. Now, I'll tell you why this is happening right now. Yes, Justice Yezerel says he was brief. Yes, he was in more ways than one. An empty plate for a few days will do that, so that everybody gets back in their rightful place. Everybody has to. And Morris, I will say this, the liens and the court actions that we all have done, because many of you leaned that corporate in all capital letters corp too. And you told the subject that the subject cannot act in the corporate status on your land. What does that mean for the rest of those foreign Albions on the land? It means that they cannot in any way, shape, form, or fashion attempt to hold public office over the Moors at all. I don't care if it's a janitor. They can't be the janitor on the land and try and exercise some authority over us. If they're the janitor at a high school, they cannot exercise any authority over the heirs that are at the erudition temple or a high school or whatever. Because, you know, even the janitors will buck up and say, y'all can't do that in here. You can't do that, you know. Nope. No foreigner shall hold public office on our land. None shall hold public office. I don't care who they are. Nope. So what does that look like? It looks like this. They the ones that are in their rightful place, like this Donald Trump in where he's in capitis diminutio minima. Minima means yes, Justice Frank, they are all fired. There's nobody holding public office over the air. But this Donald Trump in where the D is capitalized and the rest of it is in lowercase letters is a subject. A subject. Now, when he says Western Sahara, what is the name of this landmass that we're on? It's right here at the top of the page. It says right here, Northwest Amexem, Northwest Africa, North America, the North Gate. Northwest Africa. It's written in ancient English here at the top of the page, but it's the same thing. It means the same thing. So he says, it is fitting we recognize their sovereignty over the Western Sahara. So we pulled up Sahara in a geographical dictionary, and it reads as follows. A vast desert region of plateaus and lowlands extending over North Africa. And it lists the area. Islam. In the chat, Islam. So, in order to see these tweets the way they were meant to be seen, we have to know how to read. Knowing how to read always starts with proper identification of the parties. Who's talking? And who are they talking about? And who are they talking to? Well, even in this, he's not talking to us. He's actually talking to the citizens that are lawfully in their citizen status and not attempting to be policy enforcers kicking doors in where the Moors are concerned. Those are the corporates that we've leaned and taken out of office by, decapitate. That's what decapitation means, to remove from office. So no corpses have authority over the Moors, and they are acknowledging that they don't have authority over us, but we had to do it first. We had to lean them, and we had to do court actions on them. All Moors are encouraged to do court actions on your estate. Any corporation that's attempting to misidentify you and misidentify your sovereign resources, you need to do a court action on them. You need to lien them and do a court action on them. This is why we do liens and court actions. This is why we do them. Because we knew this day was coming. But we had to speak first. And he specifically said 1777 so that there would be no mistaking it for a court. A 1956 generated court. And he specifically put everything in the proper capitalization so that there would be no mistaking, because we know how to read. So, are there any questions or comments or anything about anything that's been said thus far? For those who needed the subjects to recognize us, there's your recognition. For those who needed that. We didn't need it. But, for those who need it, there it is. For those who need it, you have what you need right there. And even those who needed that, you still need to know how to read in order to know he's talking about the Moors. You still have to know how to read. And you have to know where you are geographically. and by birthright and bloodline. You have to know. So and you also have to know that this is Northwest Africa. You must know that as well. We know it, and now everyone knows it. So again, anyone who needed that type of validation right there, you have it. So now can we move on? Can we move on as a nation? Come on, everybody. It's time for us to govern our vast estate in the way that we can, which is every way. And can we agree as a nation to move on past that? Yes. Okay. So in the chat, I believe it was Justice, let me see, Justice Jirmore who put Maghrib al-Aqsa. Yes. If you pull up Morocco, even in all lowercase letters, if you pull it up and you read the definition where Wikipedia and any of the rest of them are concerned, it will say the Al-Maghrib. They get as close as they can to calling it what it really is, but we actually have to say what it really is because we're the sovereigns and the heirs. They cannot speak for us, and they know it. So they say something very close, but we have to actually state the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So, again, Donald Trump, the one with the capital D and the small letters afterwards. Here, let me make sure I put this in blue. Was previously hypothecated by, and let me make sure I put this in black, Donald Trump, the Corporation Court. The lien affidavits and sovereign Moorish American Al-Moroccan consular court actions done by all Moors has removed the corporate corpse that was covering our vast estate. So this is actually, again, affirmation that it is finished where all of that corporate crap is concerned. It's done. It's finished. Let this be known that it's finished. And let us move forward. And also, all foreign Albions were also hypothecated by foreign Albion corporations, and this should be in black. So whenever we talk about foreign Albions, some Moors who have them in their families and in their kinship lines, etc., sometimes they got upset with us about that piece. So let's, again, clarify the concept. The concept is this, and it's not a concept, it's the law. The law is that all words in all capital letters and black ink is dead. So any foreign Albion who was operating under that status was operating as a dead entity, a dead person. Anyone trying to stop us from accessing our resources, the ones in the grocery stores that's talking about you have to have a mask to access your resources, those are dead corpses. They're operating in that capacity. And it's only when they stop operating in that capacity that they become, and get in subject status, that they become this in blue, that they hold any, rights on our land. And those are rights that we dictate. And actually the law dictates it already, so it's nothing that we're wielding over anyone. If they, the ones who, again, like this Donald Trump here who did his thing on Twitter, he knows his status already. When they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, we don't have to, we don't have to do court actions on them. It's the dead corpses that are attempting to govern us that we do the liens and court actions on. And yes, they're dead. The demonstration that I did last week that I told you all about, where myself and one of the other Moors was going about on the territories, looking around and seeing, because we can see our vast estate popping up all over the place from ancient times around here. And you all have that in your territories as well. Anyone attempting to stop us from accessing our estate is a corpse. They're dead. So when I told the Empress, I said, she's dead, don't talk to her. She really was dead, because the living, breathing subject would never even think about stopping the heirs from accessing the vast estate. Not at all. Not at all. And that's where speaking the law comes in. At policy enforcers, every policy enforcer out there who's operating in corporate status is dead, a dead corpse. Every last one of them that's attempting to stop the heirs from accessing the vast estate competently and peacefully is a dead corpse until they get in subject status. They have to. Just like we have to be ourselves. We can't be running around attempting to be citizens. That's a dead status for us, the living sovereign.
Islam?
Because nothing can be over us. Nothing can be over us. Yes, Islam.
Just a quick support there. Now we can resurrect them once they come into proper status. Islam.
Yes, that's the point. That's the point right there. That's the point. That's why we're doing everything that we're doing to uplift fallen humanity. That's the point. That is why we're doing what we're doing. But see, everybody had to be properly identified first. So we took the time to do that. Make sure that everybody who's acting in corporate status is in black and all uppercase letters. Make sure that everybody who's in subject status is not in all uppercase letters and black ink. Make sure that we're in all lowercase letters in red. And then do the demonstrations in that manner. And that proper identification makes it so that any actions that follow are lawful actions. Lawful actions. Because they're not lawful if no one's in their rightful place. And so here you have it right here, that everyone is in their rightful place. We already knew that we had sovereign jurisdiction over all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. And that's all Moors. We knew that. But now we're hearing it from everywhere, which is only right. It's only right that comes from everywhere. So from this point forward, where do we go and what do we do? We already know the answer to that. We continue to unify. We continue to do, because this is by no means the end. It's just the beginning for us. There are resources on our land that most have not even seen. Most of us have not even seen. We know where they are, but we have to proclaim them and then begin to use them. And that's going to require that we competently continue to place notification on the public record of what we're doing in red and all lowercase letters. We have to keep that going, and our heirs have to keep it going, and their heirs and their heirs and their heirs and their heirs. This cannot stop into perpetuity. Placing on the public record, even if you just speak it and put a little something out there, or hand write it in red in all lowercase letters and publish it somewhere on Facebook, somewhere, YouTube, anywhere that there's a public record where the public can see it without any special access. We have to keep doing what we're doing, except now we can navigate a little bit better. And we were doing fine already as we were, but we can navigate a lot better in terms of knowing that we don't have to talk to corpses, because that movie, The Walking Dead, they were trying to tell us there what was really going on. That was the subject, trying to tell us that there's some dead stuff walking around here and you don't really recognize that they're dead yet, but you will, because they're going to keep trying to eat you and eat all of your resources up until you recognize who they are, and then you put them down. You decapitate them, because, see, remember, and decapitation is just removal from office. That's all it is. It's not, we don't have to chop anyone's head off. We don't have to do that. They did that on The Walking Dead because they were trying to say this is where you have to get them in order for them to stop coming back from the dead. So they were showing us the whole time what to do. But that is actually analogous to liens and court action. The court action removes them from any office that they might be trying to wield over us, using false identities and inducement to fraud. So this is just the beginning. And now the real work begins. It's going to be a lot fun. It's going to be fun. But the real work begins of uncovering and finding our resources and how to use them. That's our job, is to, every time we come upon a resource, we make sure that we lien and do a court action on any corpse that was previously claiming it to make sure they're dead, remove the head out of the way so that that does not resurrect. And then we speak to the system that we put in place. That's how we proceed from this point forth. There are going to be more that are coming in who are going to be waking up soon, and we're going to have to assist them to get to where we are in terms of what we know. They need to be oriented on where they are. They need to know that this is Northwest Africa, this is Amexum, this is Asia, this is North America, the land. They need to know that it's Morocco, ancient Morocco, the land. This is the Maghrib al-Aqsa. They need to know that. So once they get their bearings on that, and they know that they're not in a corporation, we're going to have to, we can just point to the things that we've done. Point to the public record and say, go look here, go look there. There's some things you need to research there. There's some things you can study there that we've done already. And that's the same thing that we did when we woke up. We looked at what was done prior to our waking up, and we're so grateful that the Moors were here prior to our waking up so that we can look at what they did and say, okay, we can do our study from that. So now we know the formula. There is another layer that we want to put in place, and that layer is the accountability layer. Grand Sheik talked about accountability this past Friday at House of Reawakening Mind. The title of his talk was, and I'm paraphrasing, now that you know what you know, you're held accountable for that. And I can't think of exactly how he put that. But, yeah, it was something similar to that. But he alluded to being accountable for what we know. So now, as we move into the possession piece, we're moving still in a unified manner, and we're also going to be putting in place the vanguard, because again, if we get the resources, but we don't properly, competently, and peacefully secure them, then that may leave room for that one remaining corpse, and we don't want to do that. Remember on The Walking Dead, soon as they would get comfortable in a place, some corpse would come around the corner, right when they were about to get some good rest and some good food and everything, a corpse would pop up out of nowhere from around the corner because somebody left the door open or somebody left something undone. They thought they were safe, but somebody fell asleep and a corpse got through. We have to properly secure. And that does not require violence at all. It requires awareness and competence and peacefulness. And an organized manner. Organized being we're already organized because we're together, we're unified. Doesn't mean 501c3 at all. It does not mean that. Because that stuff is that's not what we do. Not under any service corporation. So that's about all that I have with regard to that. I will say this about the masks. Let's talk about those, because we are talking about corpses attempting to wield some authority over the heirs. Heirs, we can't tell sovereigns what to do, but please do not wear masks. It's just a suggestion. It's just a suggestion, but please don't wear them. And let me tell you why I'm concerned about that piece right there. Let me pull up. Let's see. I don't think I may not have it here. Nope, that's not it. Okay. I'll just tell you what I know about the mask. The occupiers who are wearing those masks, the ones who work at the grocery stores and all of that stuff, They are literally putting themselves to sleep, literally, by wearing the mask. I went into one of the grocery stores recently, and actually several of them recently. And I noticed that the ones who are working in there with the mask on, they literally were looking and acting like zombies. Literally just barely moving around like they had a job to do that they have to do, but they barely even looked up because the masks have an effect on them. Now, I'll prove that by having you to Google or look up or do your study on a condition called hypercapnia. And I'll put that on the screen. I'll type it on the screen so that you can see how to spell it when you do your study on it. Just 1 second. Here. The word is hypercapnia. Now, can you hear me? I want to be sure you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Justice Jermore?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Islam. I'm opening it up to let those who there's some who are waiting to get in as well. If you look up the term hypercapnia, and I'll go ahead and pull up the actual definition for it. Okay.
Hey, Jeremy, how come you never do any court actions?
Hang on, just a section.
Jeremy, I'm asking you a question.
Oh. Okay. So,
Islam?
yes.
I have some definitions of it I picked up on DuckDuckGo.
Okay.
It says
Go ahead and read those.
hypercapnia or hypercarbia is when you have too much carbon dioxide, CO2, in your bloodstream. It usually happens as a result of hypoventilation or not being able to breathe properly.
Yeah.
There's more than that. It says or not being able to breathe properly and get enough oxygen into your lungs. When your body is getting enough fresh oxygen or getting rid of CO2, and that is the problem, getting rid of CO2, not so much the breathing. You might need to gasp or suddenly inhale a lot of air to balance your levels of oxygen and CO2. Just if I could say, every time I address someone wearing a mask, I have been telling them this. I wasn't familiar with the word hypercapnia, But I've been
Mhm.
telling them, I've been diagnosing them exactly like that and telling
Yes.
them why they should stop. A few, in fact, quite a few that I know, stopped wearing it. And now
Yes.
they go into the stores and they get looked on like they're crazy. But they bravely do it. Islam.
Yes. Yes. So during my studies this week, the ancestors brought that up, and they also brought up what the symptoms of hypercapnia is. The symptoms, I had to look it up because everyone in the store was acting so dead, really. They really were.
Mhm.
I mean, I looked around, the cashiers, the people that were walking around that had these masks on, they barely looked up. They were just looking down at what they were doing. It's almost as if it was a struggle for them to even do their job. And it was just, I felt like I walked onto the set of a movie.
Islam.
Just one second.
I have the symptoms right here.
Go ahead and read them, Empress, if you have them. Go ahead and read them.
Okay. Okay, the symptoms are flushed skin, drowsiness or inability to focus, mild headaches, feeling disoriented or dizzy, feeling short of breath, being abnormally tired or exhausted.
Yeah. You were
There you have
using
it.
my DuckDuckGo. Good
There you
job.
have it. There you have
Yes,
it.
Islam.
Yes.
It also has severe symptoms, which
Yes.
says severe hypercapnia can pose more of a threat. It can prevent you from breathing properly, unlike with mild hypercapnia. Your body can't correct severe symptoms quickly. It can be extremely harmful or fatal if your respiratory system shuts down. And that's when it
Yes.
says see your doctor, and it gives you some of the indications of that, which are unexplained feelings of confusion, abnormal feelings of paranoia or depression, abnormal
Yes.
muscle twitching, irregular heartbeat, hyperventilation as
Yes.
opposed to hypo,
Hey, Jill,
seizures,
that fiat was
panic
killing.
attacks, and passing out.
Yes. So
Yes.
let me tell you a little bit about see your doctor piece.
Yes.
Most doctors are not seeing you unless you have a mask on.
Right.
Does that make any sense? So you have if you're wearing a mask all the time and I don't believe the people that are wearing them even realize that they're literally putting themselves to sleep by
Yep.
wearing them. They were
Yes,
walking
indeed.
around in such a catatonic state
Mhm.
that I actually thought I better look into this because I was the only one in there that didn't have on a mask. And it's almost as if they barely noticed. They didn't even notice me walk past them. They were looking just down and doing their job like zombies. I said, I've got to look into this because these people have been wearing these things every day. So let me just see what's really going on with them because this is not normal. For me to everywhere I went, I walked in, did what I had to do, and nobody even looked up. Not to mention not saying anything about a mask. They didn't even look up. Even the cashiers, there was one that was standing at the self-help place, and I usually keep my eye on them because I don't want them to help me because it's my estate. I can ring up my own stuff. But she stood there like a zombie looking down. She wasn't even ringing anything up. She was just standing there. Didn't even look up.
Mhm.
I thought, did I just walk onto a movie set or is this real? And now I know why. Now, mask wearing, Justice Frank, I see what you put in the chat. What if you're sick already? Then wear a mask. What happens? Everyone should use their better judgment. That's why we don't tell sovereigns what to do. Sovereigns can do what they want to do. If a sovereign wants to wear a mask, they can wear a mask if they want to. I wouldn't advise it. And I don't give advice, but I wouldn't suggest it. Unless you feel like you're going to do whatever. Another report came out. Yes, Justice Alessandra. She said in the chat, hypercapnia is present during anesthesia procedures. Yes, it sure is. That's why they put that thing over your nose and mouth when you're being put under. And they feed what into the line? Carbon dioxide. That is anesthesia. The people are literally consenting to anesthetize themselves to sleep. Yes. Justice Apollo, I'm glad you put that in there. We're going to talk about that because I didn't want to say anything about that just yet because some may not have made the correlation between the two. I mentioned it briefly probably about 4 or 5 months ago when that thing really kicked in, when the COVID-19 thing really kicked in. I mentioned it briefly, but the correlation had not been made yet. But I'll tell you what he put in the chat, what Justice Apollo put in the chat, thank you for that. He said the more he leans and calls people into court and issues court orders, the more they announce that they tested positive to COVID-19. There is a direct correlation between the two. This is the time for the heirs to stand. Period. And you can just about tell the number of heirs who've awakened by those numbers. Just about. Those numbers are code.
Islam?
And that's why they said this landmass has the highest numbers. Because it's just like we've been saying. We're awake here. Not that anyone else is not awake, but we're awake here. Go, Justice Gilmore.
Yeah, there was a question put in there by Noble Frank Ale.
Yes.
That he said, what if you're sick already, then wear a mask? What happens? And that's a good question, because what will happen? You'll get more sick.
Yes.
Because you're depleting the oxygen you're taking in, adding to the CO2 you're retaining,
yes.
and have a problem with both intake and outlet. Even though
you got Justice Frank dancing over there, just so you know, I see him dancing. Go ahead.
But what's dancing?
Justice Frank is over there dancing because you answered
Islam.
his question.
Islam. I saw it up there, and I knew that's what he was asking about. So Islam.
Yes, Islam. Thank you, Justice Gilmore, for further clarification on that. Okay, so let me tell you. Let me give you another truth about the mask. If someone is hyperventilating on an airplane, what do they tell you to do? They tell you to breathe into a bag. They give you a bag, and they tell you to put the bag over your nose and mouth and breathe in and out so that you are not dizzy anymore from hyperventilating. Hyperventilating. That means you took in a whole lot of oxygen, and it caused a rush of oxygen to your brain, and you got dizzy from way too much oxygen because you were breathing in and out unnecessarily. You know, that kind of breathing that's reserved for working out and things like that. They have you breathe into a bag so that you can calm down. Same thing. Except after a while, you have to stop breathing into that bag and start breathing some oxygen again, or you'll go in the other direction and pass out from not enough oxygen.
Islam. That's where you go from hyper, which is accelerated, to hypo, which is the slowing down, in fact, to the point of suffocating because of not getting enough.
Yes.
So that's the hypoventilating, which many, by the way, just as a little addendum, if anybody goes into any hospitals or see any doctors, just keep this in mind. The doctors that are there don't have a clue about how you operate organically, because they don't study that, and if it's studied in school, they won't let them use it when to any place where you go in. So, your friend joined again.
Tell us about.
Yeah, I hear him.
So, so it just needs to be. People need to be aware. Don't wear a mask. Don't go into doctors, and don't be a litter bug. Islam.
Islam. Yes, Islam. They are. I can see now that what that whole mask thing is about. It really is so that it causes docility. The masks are causing docility in the people. Docility in that manner will make it so that you are highly suggestible. And anything you tell them, they're going to do it. Because they don't realize that they fog themselves in. When you walk around in a state of a long-term state, see, right now they're moving into long-term mask injury. Long-term. The long-term effects of that. But again,
Islam?
They have an option. They don't have to wear them, just like we don't have to wear them. That's a choice. Islam.
The reason they could make such accurate predictions of the increase in so-called COVID-19 is because they know the cumulative effect after a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and whatever, what will happen. And if they can keep the people, and especially our people doing that, that's how they plan to kill off some of our people.
Of course.
Who are hard-headed and don't study. But, they knew it. That's why they could make those projections and seem to be like they're seers when they make the projection.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, reaction, solution. In a nutshell, that's the game they play. Islam.
Yes. After a while, you'll be able to just walk up to somebody who is wearing a mask and make a suggestion, and they're not going, it can be any suggestion, like follow the law and we're not going to wear a mask, and you won't even get a fight from them. Because
Oh,
They have nothing to fight with. They're depleted, completely depleted.
yes. Yes. Or you can
I'm
walk up to
telling
them and
you.
tell them, put out your hand for a vaccine.
Yes,
Or stand there and they'll do it.
yes.
Yes. Again, that's the docility training level
Yes,
3.
it is.
Islam.
Better say it. That is why every time the air starts to wake up, there is an event where the whole earth starts to wear masks. Because this mask thing is not new. They do it
Right.
every 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
I think the last time it
Yes.
happened was in the 60s, the late 60s.
Actually,
And
in the
then,
90s, 99.
SARS. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But see, yes, because that's around the time that any claims and rightful, things that have to do with that, some
Yes.
prophecies had been fulfilled by then. So they were
Yes.
preparing for what's happening right now. So they did a couple of dry runs. Even back when the prophet was here, they did this, the mask thing. They called it Spanish flu. And now we can even see photos of 1918 Spanish flu where everybody was wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out recently in my research that the same thing happened in 1776, 75, 74, 73. The same thing happened where masks were brought out, and they were saying that it was because the airs were starting to wake up, and, they were doing a dry run, again, another dry run. And this time around, it's the real thing. This time it's the real thing because we're really awake. En masse, really awake. So when I've even been seeing where those doing business as churches and 501c3s are prepping the people for docility and to take the vaccine. They're starting to tell them that whatever government is in place, you have to obey them to have the rule over you. Because that's in the Biblio. Obey them to have the rule over you. It's in the Biblio, so the churches are telling the members that if the government says you have to have a vaccine, you have to have it. And that's another reason why we have to come out of all 501c3s. Because they will tell you some craziness like that. And because people are wanting, everything is getting in alignment with law, even the colonizers, they will even lay down and do whatever their quote unquote government tells them to do. They'll do it. Because there can't be two heads on this land. There's only one. And that's the air. Empress Portia put in the chat, that's why the conscious community has not been coming down with it. It's not in our vision. Absolutely. It's not. And know that hypoventilate, Justice Juramore, because you talked about that. The word
Yes.
hypo is also a part of the word hypothecate. Hypothecate.
Yes.
There is a connection. Hypothecate.
Yes.
Do the study on that word.
Yep.
Yes.
Hypothermia. Hypothermia is
Yeah.
you can't heat up.
That's it.
You
That's
don't have
it.
the ability to heat yourself up.
That's it.
Islam.
And hypothecate means you don't have the ability to be yourself.
To be yourself, exactly. You'll be whatever they tell you
Yes,
if you go with what they say.
yes. That means they have jacked your status and they're doing whatever they want to do with it, like a carjacker would with your conveyance if they carjack the car.
Yes.
They drive it and run it into a pole if they want to do that. But we don't consent to any of that madness.
Islam, just a little interjection at this point.
Yes.
One of the major reasons why we still haven't picked up the speed that we expect is because people are only slowly being weaned off the idea that they have to get things and own things and buy things and have things. And they're starting to see that if you don't come from high to low or try to go from low to high, you'll never get up there. Example, the airplanes, not one of them has ever gone outside the canopy. However, if you are mindful, you don't only go outside the canopy, you go everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you go there, then you know there and you can be there. So it's the kind of thing, again, just making the point that Noble Drew Ali kept saying, study yourself, study yourself, study yourself. Study yourself, and you must know your lower and your higher self. Everybody studies their lower self. Some will also study the higher, but not much, because they're told that if you're so heavenly minded, you can be no earthly good. That's one of the dumbest statements I've heard made, but I've heard it made by well-educated dummies.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes. Early on, when this mask thing first happened, we did a video stating that we don't have to wear masks. And that was to assist in, and we gave the suggestion on how to enforce that. And that was to avoid us falling docile. And it was to avoid us getting to the place where we're walking around like zombies. I do know of Moors who worn masks, and that didn't really help. It didn't help them. It didn't help them. And I don't know that they're Moors, but I know that there are people who have worn masks, and the mask didn't help them. They still came down with something. I don't know what the something was, but they still got sick. And here we are walking around, freely without them. So, and we're healthy and well, and we're grateful to Allah within us for that. It is a psychological operation, and we're doing everything. It is a self-induced coma. I'm just reading in the chat. Oh wow, that's brilliant. Wait a minute, that's brilliant. Empress Alessandra put in the chat. She said, we have carbon monoxide alarms in our homes, but are breathing it in the mask. Carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide are only one little molecule away from each other. Carbon monoxide is one oxygen atom attached to a carbon atom. Carbon dioxide is two oxygen atoms and one carbon attached to one carbon atom. Very closely related. Both can be unhealthy if breathed in a certain quantity. carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. And the thing is, those who are wearing masks are, you know, the plants are supposed to have the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. So thankfully, there's some of us who know not to do that, because the cycle of life continues with us. Yes, I did see that in the chat. It's put in the chat that the COVID test has the vaccine on the tip. So there was some information that came out that said that if, in fact, they wanted to test DNA for COVID, they could have swabbed your mouth and tested you that way. But instead, this is just what was stated. Now, again, this has nothing to do with us because we're not taking any of that stuff. We're not in their jurisdiction, so it doesn't have anything to do with us. But it is stated that the vaccine was actually on the tip of the test Q-tips that they were shoving up people's noses and placing in that space near the pineal gland. That's why they were going so high up in the nose, getting as close to the pineal as you can with whatever it is, and then putting that to sleep with a mask. Yes. I'm just reading what's in the chat. Yes. Yes. Islam. So we did the video early on about not having to wear masks, and we were just hoping to avoid some of what they are experiencing now in terms of, you know, is a paycheck worth it? Is that they're giving, is that really worth it? I'm just asking. Is that really worth it? Because those people are there just for the paycheck. Clearly they don't love what they're doing. Clearly they don't love it. So then you have to really think, is that worth it? Because now they're saying you have to wear, you know, those who are doing the 9-to-5 thing. At some point, we actually have to decide what's really important, our lives. And you know, throughout the ages, it was always stated, your money or your life. Well, that's a euphemism. That's a
plata o plomo, silver or lead.
Yes, that part
Yes.
right there. That, all of that. Your money or your life.
Yep.
And it's not even your money. It's not even your money because that's not real money.
Your fiat or your life.
Yes, your fiat or your life. That means nothing or your life. Really? Is that worth it? You know? So those are things to think about as we move through. We're doing all that the ancestors are, you know, giving us to share in terms of that. And we're going to keep putting the information out there and sharing it, and we have to keep sharing with one another and unifying and doing what we're doing, because they are literally putting themselves to sleep. That's why I said we don't have to worry about them. All we have to do is stand, and they will do what they're supposed to do, which is slowly move out of the way so that we can do what we need to do in terms of governing this vast estate peacefully, competently, and together. There are some national developments that are taking place right now, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with you where the other nations are concerned. We're unifying. We're unifying. You know, we're unifying definitely. Empress Portia, what were you saying there? Oh, maybe we need some of them to be asleep. That's why I said once we're in our rightful place and we're peaceful, they will sleep. They'll put themselves to sleep. We don't have to worry about them. We don't have to fight them. We don't have to argue with them. All we have to do is be ourselves and don't let anyone else govern us, attempt to govern our vast estate. And they will go to sleep on their own, just like a baby. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't. We never did have to fight and fuss and war and all of that. We don't have to do that. We are peace, so we're to be peace. So we just wanted to bring these topics to the forefront nationally so that we can discuss them, note them, and then continue demonstrating with these things in mind. Even the corporates have gone, and now the one doing business as Donald Trump is letting the citizens know that we're here. We've already done that, but he's talking to them. He's not even talking to us with these speaks. So we just speak for ourselves. No one speaks for us. And that's how I know who he's talking to with these speaks. And that's why they wanted him out of the way so badly. You know. But it's all good. We got this. If there are no other comments, questions, or anything, we will meet again on Sunday. Yes, on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the same location, the same platform. Peace and grand rising to the air.
Back to the more.
Peace and grand rising to the more.
Paz e amor.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising to the more.
Grand rising. Peace and love.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising more. Islam.
Damn, more. Extra more.
Yes. Pass it to more, Justice.